I'm Lonnie Emmert. I'm the Executive Director over the Consortium for Enterprise Systems Management. And the consortium has some far-ranging goals, many of which deal with the talent pipeline, which starts all the way at K-12 education and extends all the way through professional development as well as executive level education for information technology professionals. And as we have looked at the many goals that we have, and certainly there are those of you out there that have heard of the consortium, and there are many who have not, is that we are a collaborative effort between business, the business of IT companies, its professionals, and the academic community, working with universities, technical colleges, and together reaching down into K-12 education throughout the southeast part of the United States, but very specifically here in Columbia, South Carolina, and the state of South Carolina. The POSSCON conference is a major event for us to want to sponsor because it accomplishes several things. It accomplishes the ability to create an awareness in a community of people that realize that the developer population, most people think of software developers as being somewhat kind of a boring type job, and what we've tried to do is create this awareness that says with open source software, with all of the many opportunities today to create and develop the future, that we think that the visibility that we want to give this particular conference is something that is going to go a long way. Todd, I know that you've had that idea in your mind for, gosh, 3 years now. So why don't you share a little bit about the history of POSSCON?
Yeah, we started POSSCON, which is an acronym for the Palmetto Open Source Software Conference, in 2008. In 2008, we started the event. We felt like there was a need to, again, increase awareness of open source software. Our inkling was, in fact, correct. The first year we had 125 people show up. It was extremely successful with virtually no marketing effort, no PR involved at all. The second year, in 2009, again, we more than doubled the attendance. We doubled the number of speakers, attendees, etc. It was overwhelmingly successful. So successful that we outgrew USC's facilities, and we've now had to move it to the Columbia Convention Center for 2010.
I thought that one of the things that Todd mentioned to me was that this open source software community has had a conference on the West Coast called POSSCON for nearly 10 years now, and that there really was nothing like that on the East Coast, and that this was a real opportunity to be able to bring those that, if nothing else, are on the east side of the Mississippi River, a more close proximity to attend a similar event with the same types of companies, the same types of big names and developers that this whole community has come to know, and that we could bring them to Columbia, South Carolina. So Todd, I know you've been working hard on getting some really influential people here. You might share a little bit about that.
Yeah. Again, as Lonnie said, there really is nothing like this on the East Coast. That was our vision, to bring something like this, not only to the East Coast, but to Columbia specifically. We wanted Columbia to be known in the software community, and this was a great way to do it. We've got speakers coming in from San Francisco, Silicon Valley. I was just out, actually attended POSSCON this past summer. I met many of these speakers. There are quite a few of them actually making the trip to Columbia for this particular event. They're coming from Boston, they're coming from Florida, they're coming from Georgia, they're coming from North Carolina as well. So they truly are coming from all over the country. This is a great opportunity for Columbia to get some wonderful exposure to the software community, the movers and shakers, the most important players in this particular area.
Now, one thing I think is so important is that as we are a collaborative effort amongst business and education, as well as economic development, I want everybody to realize that we see this as very impactful to the community at large and to the Southeast region, because we are addressing this both from the technology advancement side, but certainly more about the talent and the skills of the people, and the fact that we are staying in line with what's not just current, but what we're planning for the future. I think that collaborative environment is going to be mirrored by the way this conference is going to come off. I know Todd has mentioned that we would have the typical developer track that's going to be very dynamic and should be. But at the same time, we're going to address more of a business perspective and being able to see why companies should look at open source software. From a professional perspective, it's going to be vital that folks attend and really stay current with this. The other is from an education perspective. How important is open source software, as well as the utilization of open source products in the educational community? Todd, I know you've had a lot to say about this in terms of trying to put together 3 tracks Well, why don't you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. The 3 tracks this year, the areas that we're really going to focus on are, as Lonnie stated, the developer track, the business track, and then we've actually added a 3rd track this year, the 3rd track being education, specifically targeting professors, students. What we found is that I'm out in the community a lot. We're talking to businesses, and many businesses are utilizing and they're integrating open source software into what they're doing today. The primary reason they're doing it is because budgets are growing smaller and smaller. When an IT manager has a smaller budget available to him or her, he has to make a decision. Do I get rid of people? Do I cut staff and then shift the responsibilities over to the people that I have left? Or do I integrate cheaper technology into what I'm doing? The decision that most are making at this point is to integrate cheaper technology. Open source software provides access to that cheaper technology. And the key, really the tie between educational institutions and the education track and being able to, really is being able to prepare the students and get them exposure to open source software. For kids coming out of college or even high school and they have no exposure to open source at all, and hiring managers, these companies that they're going to interview for jobs with, are wanting those particular skill sets, there is a disconnect there. Professors and students need to be aware of it, they need to get exposure to it, and that's what this conference does.